we're gonna talk about how to make healthy choices to fill up that plate in front of you with things that can actually be useful in managing and in some cases reversing type 2 diabetes. We're gonna talk about food labels and how to make good choices when it comes to grocery shopping, and of course it's going to take a little more time to read the labels, but we're going to go over what to look for and all of that stuff. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how to make some recipes healthier. A lot of times we love certain ways of cooking or certain specific dishes, but there are ways to change them a little bit to make them healthier. So just so you know what we're going to discuss. So we're going to move right on. This is on page 36 of your manual, if anyone wants to kind of follow along in there. This is what goes on the plate. We're going to dive right into it, especially since I know you're all so excited to know what goes on the plate.
I was not here last week.
Yes.
They said I never been there.
Yes, I will get that to you. Did you just get here? Oh, okay.
I ran and I'm sorry.
No, I wanted to make sure I didn't skip over you if I was passing this out.
No.
And do you have a plate already, or you need
Yes,
a
I
plate?
got a plate.
Okay.
And do you have the other manual?
Thank you.
I do not. But you won't need that for today.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah, you'll just need the spiral bound.
Okay, thank
I know, that's what Jen thought it was. Yes. Yes. I think you're gonna learn a lot. All right, so page 36 shows what goes on this plate. Now, when you hear me say I might go a little off track, that's only because this presentation was written by the Humana programs team, and they use a lot of research from CDC, ADA, American Diabetes Association, National Institutes of Health, and I have a lot more recent research that I like to mix in with this because, as you all know, science is changing on a regular basis, and this manual has not been updated. So I might ask you to maybe write some notes on there. Feel free to cross some stuff off if you want to. But I'm going to tell you exactly what should go on this plate and why. So you can see from the image in your book that half of the plate would get non-starchy vegetables. So non-starchy vegetables means high fiber, more or less. Vegetables that are less likely to spike your blood glucose, right? So a lot of people have that misconception. Before I get into the fruit, I'll go ahead and tell you that they're not supposed to eat things like potatoes, not supposed to eat carrots, not supposed to eat fruit or various types of fruit. I want to explain that all vegetables and fruits hold high nutrient value, and something they all have in common is fiber. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you, when you're looking at nutrition, specifically for chronic conditions like diabetes, your best friend is high fiber foods, okay? So think about anything that slows down your digestion is your friend, okay? So that's what fiber does, basically. So when you eat fruit with fiber, it's gonna slow down the absorption of the sugars, which are natural sugars, right? Whereas if you eat something with added sugar, without fiber, that's the stuff that makes the blood sugar skyrocket, right? So just remember, the big thing to remember is fiber, okay? And that's why half of the plate is showing non-starchy vegetables. So a couple of you have already looked and seen what examples of non-starchy vegetables are. We're going to go through more of a list of the commonly used ones in just a minute. A quarter of the plate is going to be filled with starchy vegetables or whole grains. So both of those things might digest a little bit faster, but they still have the fiber, and it's all about getting nutrients, okay? Everything that's found in nature has a purpose, right? I think most of us believe that and understand it. So when we're choosing foods to go on this plate, we want to make sure it's as close to nature as possible, right? Is this the way it's found in nature? And if the answer is no, and it's in, some kind of a package, you can barely recognize the ingredients, or you don't really know what it is without looking at the label, that's not what we're wanting to put on the plate. So we're going to go through the list of what is included in these categories, but I just wanted to show you what goes on the plate first. Protein, another quarter of the plate. Then you have the top corner, you'll see fruit and dairy. Dairy has gotten a lot more controversy lately. It's a lot different than it used to be. It's processed a lot differently now. So that is optional. That's something to talk to your doctor about. If you decide you'd like to use regular dairy, just ask your doctor if that's suitable for you. Or if you see a registered dietitian, or if you have any other trusted medical professional that is trained in diabetes, talk to them about dairy, okay? And then fruit, of course, is on the list because that offers other nutrients. You always hear eat the rainbow, right? Well, every fruit has its specific color because it's higher in different nutrients. So the more colors of fruit we eat, the more variety of nutrients we get. And that fuels our body to run the systems appropriately, right? And then, of course, the beverage is important too. Water is 100% the best. 0-calorie beverages does not mean diet soda or a diet drink of some kind. So again, we're going as close to nature as possible, right? And we're not choosing chemical-based beverages. All right, any questions on that so far? Okay. I'm hoping that your heads aren't going to be spinning from all this information. Okay, so non-starchy vegetables. I have some on the screen and you have them in your book too. This does not include all of them. It's impossible to include them all, but the list of non-starchy vegetables is here in your book. All of these offer their own nutrient in different levels, right? Sometimes you hear people say, you can't go plant-based, which I think it was you, right? You had a hat on, that's why I didn't recognize you. You had a hat on last time. But a couple of you talked to me about whether it was your doctors or not, or you deciding to go plant-based. And I said that is absolutely the way to go when you have diabetes. And they always are worried about protein.
Yeah.
So, and then you hear, well, I need a complete source of protein. You can only find that in an animal product. And that's not true, okay? So different plants have different levels of amino acids in them. Some higher than others, some are very low. As you know, we need 22 amino acids, and there's 9 of them we don't make that we have to get through food. So as long as you're eating enough of a variety and enough of a source that has protein in it, you will get enough protein, okay? So I don't want anybody to believe that you are forced to eat steak, you have to eat chicken. If you don't want to go that route, you don't have to, okay? Any questions on the non-starchy vegetables? Any surprises there? I know someone said carrots were a little surprising. Yeah, they're a little higher on the glycemic index, but since they have decent fiber in them, it slows down the digestion enough that they shouldn't be spiking blood sugars too much.
Where's lettuce?
Lettuce?
Water? Yeah.
Yeah. What type of lettuce are you asking?
Anything, any kind of lettuce.
Okay.
I eat a whole lot of salad,
Yeah, that's good.
but Yeah, the lettuce is not in here.
No. So the purpose of these examples are really to give you the highest nutrient foods. So when it comes to lettuce though, there are some really dark types of lettuce. So the darker green the leaves are, the higher the nutrient value is. That's an excellent question.
Iceberg.
Yeah, iceberg, no nutrients really at all.
Iceberg
Yeah.
is nothing in it.
But it does have fiber in it, which is good for you, but not a lot of nutrients. So while we're on that topic, I'm gonna go ahead, make sure you have your pens and write this down maybe on the bottom of page 37, because this is not in the manual. There are 5 foods, and I call them the 5 Bs. They all start with the letter B to make it easier to remember, that have all been researched that if you add them to your nutrition, they are all researched to help control blood glucose. So the first B is broccoli, a dark leafy green, which is good for any type of chronic condition you are trying to prevent. Broccoli, excellent cancer prevention too. High in fiber, high in nutrients, and it has protein in it. Okay, that's the first B. Second B, blueberries. And I'm sure you've seen that around for cognitive health too, because blueberries are good for brains too. So the color of the blueberry is significant in this case for diabetes because it has something called anthocyanin in it, which is an antioxidant that has been researched to help control blood sugar. So it's the color of the berry that is caused by the antioxidant that has been researched for blood sugar control. It's also anti-inflammatory, good for your brain. That's the second B.
Does that mean the darker blueberries better?
Yes, the darker anything really is better for you when it comes to fruits and vegetables. Thank you. Whoever said that, thank you. I was struggling there. Thank you. Okay, so we got broccoli and blueberries, beans, in particular black beans and dark beans. Go ahead.
I had stomach cancer way back then, and I cannot eat. The only kind of beans I can eat are the cannellini.
Cannellinis, yep.
It's the only one I can digest. So
Yeah.
I mean, I make like chicken chili with that because that's the way I can. You know.
Those are great for you too. That doesn't
The other
mean,
one I just cannot eat.
how about lentils? Can you eat lentils? Same issues?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that is,
they're good for you, but
I know.
they're not good for my body.
I know, that is a problem for some people with beans, especially if they have like a GI issue or a past health condition or something. They are super high in fiber, so it can definitely disrupt things in there. So if you're new to beans especially, you definitely would want to start with lentils, just because lentils are more gentle on the stomach than beans traditionally, and just start small, let your body adjust to them gradually. But the darker beans are on the list for the same reason blueberries are, because the anthocyanin in those beans helps control blood sugar. Also, if you remember in class 1, we were talking about how insulin resistance happens, and it's the saturated fat that's stuck in your pancreas and in your cells, so the insulin can't let the glucose in. So beans are a great source of protein that don't have any fat in them, right? It's just a healthy source of protein without the saturated fat. So we're up to 3. Number 4 is barley.
Oh,
You like barley?
I love barley.
Good. And really, it doesn't mean it's better than the other whole grains. It's just because it starts with a B, it just helps you remember that it's one of the 5 Bs. But barley's high in fiber, high in nutrients, but all the whole grains are good for you. We just have barley because it's the B, right?
What about farro?
That's an excellent one too.
What is
I actually had some the other
What
night.
is it?
Farro, F-A-R-R-O.
Italian grain.
Yes, yes.
Is rice the whole grain?
Brown rice.
Brown.
Back to its form in nature, right? Whatever it looked like in nature, unprocessed. And then the fifth one is bell peppers.
All or just green?
Any color.
Oh, good.
And they all offer a variety of different nutrients, right? Like the orange is higher in vitamin A, the red one's higher in vitamin C, believe it or not. So they all offer a different nutrient profile. But they have the fiber, the antioxidants. So those are the 5 Bs. So if you add those into your diet, however you can, right? You should notice, depending on what else you're doing, right? But you should notice some improvement in your blood glucose over time. Just give it some time. Again, if you chase it down with cheer wine and a hot dog, no promises.
So instead, you should use tequila.
Yeah, I'm gonna blame Karen for that one. Karen couldn't be here today, but I'm gonna let her know. So for those that weren't here last week, somebody had asked about types of alcohol that people with diabetes could drink. And Karen, who has type 1 diabetes, said that her doctor told her tequila. And I'm probably gonna hear about that for the rest of this program. Oh, right, I forgot about the second one.
I don't remember, like, what one about.
I hope that's not the only thing you guys wrote down last week. Oh, boy. All right, so, go ahead, sorry, question.
Such a thing as eating too much protein and thinking about the keto diets and some of those that
Right.
protein and protein.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought up the keto diet. That is, sometimes doctors will put their patients with diabetes on the keto for temporary reasons, whether it's weight loss or just to get their blood sugar under control, but it is not a long-term solution. And in the long term, just based on the keto diet itself, allowing things like bacon and red meat and all the saturated fats, that can actually make insulin resistance worse over time. So it will make the blood sugars do really well at first. It will make the weight loss happen at first. Later down the road, it's gonna make insulin resistance worse. So that's a good question about keto. To answer your first question about too much protein, it is possible to have too much protein. It doesn't seem as common nowadays. It seems to be people are too low in protein, but if you did do plant-based diet, as long as you're around 60 grams or higher, you're fine. You probably don't want to go as high as like 200 unless you're trying to put on muscle or you're bodybuilding or you're super active. But protein is directly related to your sex, your medical conditions, your lifestyle, whether you're moving a lot or sedentary. So that's something you want to ask your doctor if it's a concern, like how much protein should I be getting? And if your doctor doesn't know, I would definitely see a registered dietitian so you know what your number should be. Because there's always conditions, right? Like if somebody has a kidney condition, theirs might be different. So it's important to ask a health provider that for you in particular.
Can you repeat what you said about 60 grams?
That's your minimum protein, 60 grams. Yeah, 60. Yeah. And generally, as long as you're just eating enough protein with your meals and maybe snacks, most people do tend to get enough, but that tends to be a deficiency as people get older, especially for some reason, appetites don't seem as prominent, so that's definitely something I would focus on. So protein, go ahead, sorry.
How do you feel about the protein drinks?
Yeah. I was hoping no one would ask me. But I'm going to tell you the truth.
Okay.
So what you want to do, especially the ready-made protein drinks, look at the ingredients list.
Yes.
and understand what's in them. And as long as it has very few ingredients, and again, is as close to nature as possible, it gets a green light. If you're not sure, run it by whoever you know that is a professional in nutrition.
Yeah.
Not like Nancy down the street who's trying to lose weight, you know, or sometimes medical professionals aren't as trained in nutrition, so even if it's like an RD or something like that. But a lot of them tend to have a lot of chemicals in them, which I don't like, because they're trying to do preservatives, they're trying to sweeten it with artificial sweeteners and things like that. So that's the only thing I don't like about them.
Okay, thank you.
But ask your doctor, I would ask, or your endocrinologist, or whoever you trust in that field, what might be right for you. Good question. Protein sources, otherwise, beans and lentils we talked about. Nuts and seeds are excellent because of the high protein, high fiber, high nutrients, and omega-3s. Those are really good for inflammation, right? And diabetes can be an inflammatory disease, right? So the request is about 5 handfuls per week. So 1 handful is 1 serving, and a variety of nuts, because just like fruits and vegetables, the different nuts have different levels of nutrients, right? So as much of a variety as possible. Remember too, they have higher calories because of the healthy fat, but it is healthy fat, so it's good for you. But 150 calories or so, sometimes 200 depending on the nut, is about a handful. One good news, if you like pistachios, you can eat a lot more of those than the other nuts, because they're a little lower in calorie. Potassium, yeah, all good nutrients, and really all the nuts. Low-fat cheese, not one of my favorites on the list. In fact, if you go or study anything on lifestyle medicine itself, dairy is actually off the list for people with diabetes. And that's for people who are trying to manage higher blood sugars that might not be in control, or somebody that might be trying to reverse their type 2, depending on their situation. So if you're curious about whether or not it's right for you, talk to your endocrinologist and find out if you can find somebody who's qualified in lifestyle medicine and talk to them about it. Buffalo, rabbit, and venison. Anybody in here eat those things?
Yes.
Do you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I ate some buffalo in Canada.
Ah.
And I ate venison. My dad was up here.
Yeah, venison's popular now.
And venison is very good. I mean,
Very lean.
very lean.
Yeah.
Because the doctor told me, a cardiologist, said that you're better to eat venison than to eat steak.
Yes. The lower the fat, the healthier the protein. 100% correct. You know, there's so back and forth about eggs. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Let me just tell you, if your labs are fine and you're eating eggs, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, type, you know, because sometimes it's hard to get protein in, and there can be other issues, and eggs do have vitamins, and honestly, I don't feel their fat is that high. They have cholesterol in them, but that doesn't directly contribute to cholesterol issues. So my opinion as a non-doctor is that eggs are okay as long as it's not like overeating them. If you have high blood pressure or blood pressure that's not in control, just remember each egg is 75 milligrams of sodium naturally. So just remember that if there's a blood pressure issue or something like that. Yeah. It depends on what your goals are. I know. So it really does depend on your goals. If you are somebody that wants to see if, and this is no promises either, right? I'm just sharing research, but the research says if you're somebody that wants to like go die hard into lifestyle change and see if you might be able to reverse your diabetes or at least, you know, bring your A1C down, they say no animal products. Right, including yogurt. Yes.
Coffee, there is, yeah.
Even what was that? Coffee creamer, right.
That was your question, coffee cream.
That being said, though, don't stress. You know, I mean, find something that works for you that's not going to stress you out and stick with that. And there's a lot of plant-based creamers out there too. But when you're looking at the plant-based creamer, again, look at the ingredients because some of them add all kinds of stuff and it's probably better to have nuts, right?
And sugar versus an artificial sweetener.
Yeah. Yeah. Who said monk fruit? Yes. So if you have to choose, right, a sweetener that's 0 calorie, the hierarchy is monk fruit number 1 and stevia number 2. M-O-N-K.
What's the second one?
Stevia. S-T-E-V-I-A. And the only reason is those are both made from plants instead of chemicals, right? And there's very limited, I stress the word limited, research on monk fruit saying that it might help your stomach flora. So your gut microbiome, the healthy bacteria, limited research that monk fruit might help that, bring that healthy bacteria back.
So monk fruit and stevia.
Yes.
What kind of coffee she's saying?
Still breaks down like sugar.
Something called monk.
More natural, so it's not as processed, but it will still break down like sugar in the body. Yeah. Go ahead.
I have a question on the non-starchy vegetable. Why is not avocado kind of milk?
That's actually more of a fat. It's a great vegetable, but it's more of a healthy fat. Very good for you.
Because
And
I'll have a smoothie in the morning.
Good.
I drink almond milk because I can't drink cow's milk. So I take almond milk with 1 avocado
yeah,
and maybe a couple of pieces of fruit.
yeah.
That's what I drink for my breakfast.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I want to make sure you guys know, just because it's not on the list, it's just because there's so much, right? It still is okay, right? If it's a fruit or a vegetable and it's as close to nature as possible, it's okay. Yeah, but some, of course, like avocado does have the fat in it, so it's going to be higher calories, so, you know, we have to watch out for that, but that's healthy.
But then if you take almond milk, I mean, I take the unsweetened almond milk, so it's 30 calories for 8
Yeah.
ounces. And so
Yeah.
you just have to.
Yeah, and it's funny, it's little changes sometimes. Just the smallest change can make such a huge difference if it's done consistently. Like if you add, say, beans to your dinner, your blood sugar in the mornings will be better and you'll metabolize your breakfast better. I mean, one thing, right? Even if you kept everything else the same, you can just make one little change at a time. And if it's consistently done, it can make a huge difference. So don't feel like you have to do a complete overhaul to your life because that's too stressful. It usually doesn't last. A lot of times people are not successful with that long term. So just pick one little thing maybe at a time. Then when you get used to that, then you pick something else, right? Just baby steps, not everything all together. Yeah, go ahead.
When you were talking about stevia, you were saying something, were you saying monk fruit?
Yes,
How do you spell that?
M-O-N-K.
And is it fruit?
No, it's actually available with the artificial sweeteners. It's in the same aisle.
Okay.
Yep. It comes in little packets, it comes in a liquid. Again, it's still processed, right? But it's made from a plant instead of a chemical. So if you're going to choose one or the other, at least that one's a healthier option. Honey, also healthier than the processed kind, but still breaks down like sugar in the system. Yeah. Great questions. Keep them coming. And I know we always have to end at 2, but I still want to make sure your questions are answered, and I can skip over stuff if I need to because it's in your manual, so the questions while I'm here are very important, so don't hold back for the sake of time. Go ahead.
Under fats, you've got listed peanuts. What about peanut butter?
So same thing with peanut butter. It is a little more processed, but as long as it just says peanuts on the ingredients list, you're good. Just make sure you don't fall for that, and we'll go over label reading, but you don't want to fall for the marketing on the front that makes it sound so healthy and oh, it's all natural and it's not GMO and organic. Then you look on the back, it's got like palm oil in it and sugar, and well, yeah, that's all natural too, right? But you want to make sure it's just peanuts.
Yeah. There are some you can find that is just ground right within the store.
Yes, you're right. And you guys have awesome grocery stores around here that do that stuff. Yeah.
Do what?
That grind their own nuts into nut butters. And you can buy stuff in bulk that's like where it comes from nature for sure, and you just grind it yourself, right? So you'll see the other proteins in your book. These are the whole grains, just examples of whole grains that are good for you, just so you have them all. And this is on page 38 in your book. Anyone in here tried quinoa? That's probably my favorite.
Yeah, that's good.
That's a good one because it does have the complete amino acid profile. It's, I think, one of the only whole grains that has everything that you need amino acid wise and higher levels. And there's also research on quinoa that it might help lower LDL levels, so the bad cholesterol. But fiber helps cholesterol too, not just diabetes, right? So some of you might find that if you apply what you learn in this class, your cholesterol might get better, heart issues might get better, brain health will get better, so it all kind of is related, right?
Does it
Oh, it's in your book. It's on page 38.
Okay, so there's red quinoa, black quinoa, does it matter?
Nope. Not at all. There's a couple things on this list too that I know people have never heard of, including me, like the one that starts with a T in your book. Has anyone in here had that?
Where?
No.
It's in your book under the grains on page 38. Triticale. Never heard of it.
What's this
But-
for?
Sorghum. That's a whole grain that I have never tried either. But you'll see it as an additive in some things.
Molasses.
Popcorn, you should be pretty happy about. Yeah.
That's a good book.
Yes. However, I probably don't need to add this, but the way we prepare the food matters too. So popcorn with all the butter and the salt. Go ahead.
Okay, and I get some Parmesan cheese.
Why is what bad for you? Butter? So the question is, why is butter bad for you? So, just so you know, and this is going to be my answer for a lot of this. I work with a neurologist in the Burlington area, which is where I'm from. And we are doing an Alzheimer's prevention program together. And somebody asked him that very question, and I loved his answer because he said, compared to what, right? So if you're gonna eat margarine with a bunch of chemicals in it, butter's probably better than that, right? It really depends on what you're gonna have instead. If you have olive oil instead, that's better than butter, right? But it just depends on what you're gonna have instead and how much you're gonna have too. Because if it's a lot of butter, here comes the saturated fat, right? But a tiny bit on your toast instead of high chemical stuff is probably better for you. So if you ever have that question about, is this bad or is that bad, always remember what's closest to nature. What has the fewest ingredients, right? How is this processed? That's an important question. Thank you for asking that.
What about that low cholesterol butter, which is what I tend to get? Is that not good?
Depends on what's in it, right? I fell for one of those things because I have a family history on both sides of the high cholesterol. In fact, I'm the only one in my entire family, and I'm talking mother, father, brother, grandparents, aunts, and uncles, who's not on a cholesterol medicine. And I fell for that. I don't want to say the name because I can't remember what it was, but it was one of those like lowering cholesterol things. And I was eating it, and then one day I decided maybe I should look at the ingredients, and I didn't. I was like, I'm out of all people, I should look at ingredients, but I didn't. But it had palm oil and other things in it that were not good for me. So I actually went for a plant-based butter that had far less ingredients in it. So it really just depends on what's in it. Yeah.
That tri-calorie
Yes.
was a man-made cereal, cross between wheat and rye.
Ah, okay, thank you. So wheat and rye mixed together, pretty much. Okay.
I got a question about rice, long and grain-rich rice. If you rinse it, does that help?
You mean like getting starches out and stuff?
Some of the starch.
Yeah. So as long as, again, when you look on the back of the label, it just has the rice and that's it, then yes, that's okay. The long grain brown rice is good. But again, you don't want to fall for the front of the package, right? Especially with the microwave stuff. Sometimes they will have additives in those to make them taste good or preserve them or whatever. So you just want to, it all comes down to ingredients and processing, right? Unfortunately. Brown rice is the better option. It breaks down slightly slower than white rice. Slightly higher fiber, slightly more natural, less processed. Yeah. So you can kind of hear a familiar theme here, right? Less ingredients, closer to nature, higher nutrients, higher fiber, and that's what we're going for, right? And variety, so that you get nutrients from everywhere, not just one thing every day. Because most people can end up nutrient deficient, and then that can cause another issue, right? So we want to try to get every variety we can onto that plate, which is, by the way, dishwasher safe. So you can actually put your real food on that plate. It's not just for show, it's actually for use. Didn't remember if I told you that or not. And I probably don't have to tell you guys this either, but the goal is not to put the food up to here on the plate. I knew I didn't have to tell you that, but just in case the question came up, I figured I'd go ahead and squash that one out. Yeah, I figured it was coming. The starchy vegetables are here in your book too. This, of course, does not include all of them, but these are not vegetables to avoid. They're just vegetables to be mindful of because they can bring your glucose up a little faster than the others that we've been talking about, right? So remember, the higher fiber, the slower they digest, the less likely they are to cause that blood sugar spike. That doesn't mean that you can't have these because they still have good nutrients in them. You probably just want to pair it with something like a higher fiber one that will slow the digestion down, right?